So, starting our section on social exchange, some updates and reminders. Your quiz 5 is in the process of being graded. It will be graded by the end of today. If you have any questions on that, please let me know. Your activity 5 is now graded with comments, so please look at those. If you have any questions, again, just please let me know, reach out, send me an email. Would probably be the most effective way, or a message through Canvas. Your activity 6 is due Friday at 11:59 p.m. I highly recommend giving it a look over before starting to complete it. There's something in it that you may be required to do this week. Um, it's not super labor intensive, but just go ahead and give it a look. See what you have to do. Maybe you'll kind of notice some of the things that some of the questions that are asked. Maybe you'll notice them in some of your interactions this week. And if you have any issues, again, please let me know. Make sure to watch the supplementary videos. And then finally, there are some extra credit opportunities. So typically throughout the semester, there would be different activities on campus, different research talks, or just different people around campus talking about the research, or different speakers who are coming to campus and talking about things that are related to this class and different events and so on. And since this is a very unique situation we find ourselves in, um, those opportunities just aren't available. And especially because typically students, it's a lot easier to come in for office hours. It's a bit harder to do that this semester. We're not as able to have interactions with each other as easily as we could before this. And so I know that makes it difficult. I want to make sure that you all have the opportunity for extra credit. I know we all have so much going on right now. I know you all are struggling, uh, just due to the circumstances and things being so different. And, the fact that college is just stressful to begin with. So I want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to make up maybe some points that you've lost. We'll talk about some other things a little bit later on in the semester, which really means like in a few weeks, we'll have some conversations about maybe some ways that you could, improve your grade or get yourself in a little bit better of a position where you're not as worried, maybe to where you don't have to do the final activity if you don't want to, which, as a reminder, you can do the final activity on um, the week after Thanksgiving. You don't have to do that, but if you would like to, it'll replace your lowest activity grade. But again, we'll be having these conversations in a couple of weeks prior to the break, so things that you guys can do. But in the meantime, I wanted to offer a few extra credit opportunities. And so I know this is difficult to see, but it's also posted on Canvas. But I just wanted it here so I didn't have to go back and forth. But it's posted on Canvas under the course files, under miscellaneous, and then extra credit. And so, again, these are a bit unconventional extra credit opportunities. But considering that everybody is really in a unique situation right now, I know that there's been lots of discussions about student mental health, the stress levels that you all are facing right now, and having to manage multiple classes. I know is a lot, and especially multiple classes online. And online, it can be great, but it's also not really meant to be something that you're doing as a full-time student taking a full course load. So I know everybody's pretty stressed out, so I wanted to come up with as many opportunities as possible. And while they're not directly related to this course, they are things that can help you contribute to the Stillwater community, to the OSU community, but also some things that might contribute to your own health and well being. And because I think it's so important that you're taking care of yourself right now, to me, that helps you be a better student. It helps you be a more successful student, a healthier student. A healthy, happy student is able to engage more with the class, is able to feel more at ease and more comfortable. So, um, like I said, given the current circumstances, here are some ways you can contribute to the community, to OSU, or to your own health and well being. And some of these opportunities are more accessible than others, but I want to make sure there's a variety of things that you could choose from. So, along with the items listed under the column labeled Submit, um, what you have to do with these is just submit a one-page double-spaced description and reflection on the activity you completed, which I'll hit more on in a second. So you may earn up to 30 points from this list, which is a ton of extra credit. Like that's a ton of extra credit. But I know it could be really helpful. Maybe if that could help replace one of your quizzes or, you know, one of your assignments that you don't think you did very well on. To me, as long as you're doing the work that you're engaging with the class, you're engaging with the material, but I want you to have the opportunity to improve your grade while taking care of yourself, while contributing to your community. Uh, because I know a lot of you are doing so much labor behind the scenes. Maybe you have a job, or you're helping to care for someone, or you're really just trying to get through the semester while taking care of yourself. And there's so much that I don't know, that I'm not, information that I'm not privy to of what's going on in your lives. So to me, if you are able to do any of these things, that's going to, help the community, help yourself in some way. Um, that's really, what it's about. If you're engaging with the material, if you're doing things to care for yourself, that's ultimately going to contribute to your ability to engage with the class and to engage with the material. And so all of these will be submitted to the Canvas Dropbox labeled extra credit no later than November 21st at 11:59 p.m. And so there's some different events in Stillwater and at OSU that are occurring in October and November. And then there's things that you can do anytime, and those are really focused towards self-care. But the ones in October, and I've labeled them the dates and the time and the location, and whether or not they're free or require some sort of donation, or you have to pay to do it. Because I'm thinking, like, for example, like going to the pumpkin patch at Lost Creek Safari. If that's something that you wanted to do that you think would be fun and would be a good, just break from school for an hour or so, it's $8. And I think, hey, if you're taking care of yourself, and that's great, you should get credit for that. I just want you to talk about your experience there and all that good stuff. So there's like a hazardous waste collection where you can take household products and drop them off so that they're disposed of in a healthy and safe way. You can get 10 points for that. And so with that, it says submit a picture. So just like take a picture of yourself, like with your items at the place. Just some sort of like proof, right? So I can see that you were actually there, you actually did the thing. And then write a brief one page double spaced reflection on what you did, why you did it, what you learned from the experience, maybe something notable that happened, something that you saw. It doesn't really matter, just kind of a reflection on it. It doesn't have to be formal. You can write it like you were just writing a message to a friend. It does not have to be formal. Just talk about your experience, whatever really you want to say. So with that, you would submit a picture and that one page reflection. The reflection is something that you do for all of them. And it goes down to like a campus food drive, different fundraisers like for the library. There's actually a virtual talk that's going on October 29th, from the president and CEO of American Apparel, talking about the global supply chain in the wake of COVID-19. Just have a screenshot of that. You get 5 points. Write your reflection. One of my personal favorites is Growloween. So if you have a dog, you can dress up your dog in their Halloween costume and take them in to the Three Dog Bakery. They'll take a picture. Your dog will get a treat, and then your dog will be submitted to the costume contest on their Facebook page. And again, that's pretty unconventional, not related to this class, but it sounds like something that could be fun for some of you, and kind of be an opportunity to take a break from school and relax a little bit. Um, so then moving to November, there's all sorts of different things like a virtual talk on Facebook Live. They would typically do it at the library, but it's local medical experts talking about Alzheimer's and dementia and caregiving. There's also a supplies drive for Tiny Paws Kitten Rescue. Again, that's a way to contribute to your community and some local philanthropic organizations. You can go to the art exhibit here on campus. It's really cool. I highly recommend it. You can paint your own pumpkin at Prairie Art Center, or there's also a virtual webinar that's called Success is Knocking, and it talks about, um, uh, you know, a positive mindset and a way to approach your career in a way that will help you be the most successful you that you can be. And then finally, things that you can do anytime, and I recommend doing no more than two from this section. Um, but all sorts of things that you can get points for. You can carve your own pumpkin. You can do something that you've been putting off. And for that one, I say to submit other than your reflection is whatever you feel is appropriate. I don't know what it is that you've been putting off. Maybe it's, I don't know, taking out the trash. Maybe you've just been putting that off and you want to submit like a picture of you holding the trash bag. Like that's fine, along with your reflection. But it can be all sorts of things. Take a walk around Boomer Lake. That's a really good stress reliever. I found that, um, I used to be very athletic, not anymore. But I found that uh, taking walks is actually something that really helps my mental health. It actually really helps me get better sleep and just overall reduces my stress levels. So take a walk around Boomer Lake. Um, Make a playlist of music that makes you feel happy. You can send me a link to your Spotify playlist, a YouTube playlist, wherever you make that. If you do it on your phone, like through like iTunes, you can take a screenshot. But I thought that might be fun. Just make a playlist of music that makes you feel good. Cook a balanced meal for yourself. Get a full 8 hours of sleep. And this one's a bit tricky, but I had to put it on there because sleep is so important. If you have a Fitbit or Apple Watch or some sort of sleep tracker, they even have them on your iPhone. I don't know how it works. I don't want to know how it works, how it can track your sleep, but it can. You can just send a screenshot of that. Um, Draw a picture, paint something, craft something, build something, play a game with friends or family. Um, Learn more about yourself by taking it's the abridged Myers-Briggs or MBTI or whatever. There's various versions. It's just kind of fun. It can help you learn more about yourself. uh, it's I think it's fun. So a bit of self-discovery might be fun. Just a screenshot of the results. um, and then make a list of 20 things that make you smile. It can be things you're grateful for, things that make you smile, like I don't know, kittens or puppies, um, whatever it is that makes you smile. That I think is good. You can get 10 points for that, 10 points, which is incredible. So, again, I know these are very unconventional ways to earn extra credit, but I think it can be a good way to invest in your community, invest in yourself, and ultimately can help you better engage with the material. Because what's important is that you are healthy and taking care of yourself. So I hope this is a good opportunity. I hope you all find some benefit in it, and it can also help you achieve the grade that you're hoping to on this very trying and difficult semester. So now that all that's out of the way, getting into social exchange. So, social exchange theory is a model for interpreting society as a series of interactions between people that are based on estimates of rewards and punishments. So, according to this view, our interactions are determined by the rewards and punishments that we expect to receive from others, which we evaluate using a cost benefit analysis. And this can be conscious or subconscious. So essentially, it's within every interaction, we're thinking of the cost and benefits of that interaction. So let's say you're thinking about scheduling office hours with an instructor. You're weighing the cost. The cost is you have to take the time to do it, and maybe it's really stressful because you don't like meeting with your instructors. Maybe you're meeting about something like you missed an assignment and you're not, you don't want to have to deal with your instructor maybe reprimanding you in some way. So those are costs, but the benefits are that you can get to know your instructor a little bit more. You can talk to them face to face, humanize each other a bit. Um, and maybe it ends up, a potential positive interaction where, your instructor can help you maybe make up a grade that, something that you missed. And those are the potential benefits. And so social exchange theory talks about that cost benefits analysis that we do within every interaction. So, some features of social exchange theory. Its origins are in economics and psychological behaviorism. So, again, it's economics, that cost benefits analysis. It's founded on the principles of operant psychology. It assumes mutually contingent transactional processes. So, that's um, we're depending on each other in these exchanges, essentially, is what that means. And generates in that we generate benefits via joint tasks between actors. So again, that just means that we get benefits from interacting with each other. And so, since individuals are embedded in larger social networks and groups, each individual must exchange with others in order to acquire valued resources. And so, that means for virtually every resource we have, we get due to an exchange with others in this vast network. So, that can be going to the store and getting milk. That requires a lot of exchanges between people. That entails a lot of exchanges um, for you to get that milk. And then you exchange with like the cashier, for example, and you're exchanging with the store that's selling the milk. Um, this whole vast array of individuals who are making exchanges in daily life, whether that's exchanges like just saying hello, or actually exchanging goods and services and resources. We're all benefiting from these exchanges within this vast network of individuals. And so here I just have a linked video. I recommend watching it in the PDFs that are uploaded. And it just talks about social exchange theory and its origins in behaviorism and operant conditioning in particular. And so, just to give you an idea, if you're not from psychology and you've never heard of operant conditioning, it's a very quick, short video that will give you um, kind of an introduction to what that is and some context, so you can see uh, what social exchange is and where its origins. So, some key assumptions. So, social exchange theory is composed of many theories emphasizing different concepts according to their orientation towards basic mechanisms of social exchange theory. Although theories of social exchange offer um, a diverse a diversity of concepts and mechanisms, um, that constitute the social exchange perspective, the following assumptions are common among all social exchange theorists. So, the first key assumption is that social behavior can be explained in terms of cost, rewards, and exchanges. So, from a social exchange perspective, all behavior is exchange. All social behavior is exchange behavior, where we have these potential costs and rewards, but then also once we have the exchange, there are costs and rewards to every exchange. They assume that actors seek rewards and avoid punishments. So going into its roots in operant conditioning and behaviorism, people seeking rewards and avoiding punishments. So we're going to engage in exchanges that give us the most reward for the lowest level of punishment or cost. And it assumes the actors are self-interested. And so this is something we'll get into in terms of the critique of social exchange theory. Is there room for altruism? But as a basic fundamental rule, they assume the actors are self-interested. So that means that every person in an exchange is seeking to get basically the best outcome for themselves. So either no costs or punishment, or the lowest amount of costs for the highest reward. They assume that actors engage in recurrent interactions. So, meaning, you have a positive exchange with somebody, you're going to keep exchanging with them. So, like, you have a friend, you meet someone in class, and you had a great conversation with this person. Social exchange says that you're getting a lot of rewards from this exchange, and you're going to keep engaging in this relationship. It says that relationships are also interdependent. Again, going back to that vast array of networks of people making exchanges so that you could get milk at the store. So all these relationships are embedded in these larger networks, and they're interdependent. So we're all dependent on each other. And the value of outcomes are determined by subjective appraisals of the actor. So again, thinking back to all of these theories and their kind of foundation in symbolic interaction, is the value of something is subjective to each person. So let's say you are um, in class and your teacher's handing out Hershey Kisses as a reward for getting an answer right. Um, well, that might be a really big reward for someone because they don't often get chocolate and they really like chocolate. But for you, maybe you hate chocolate. So that reward doesn't really mean a lot to you. It's not really a reward. If anything, it might be a punishment. But you're valuing that a lot less than someone who really loves chocolate. So it's subjective. And so, generally, exchange theorists assume that actors will attempt to obtain the most benefit for as little cost as possible. So, because actors are self interested, they'll try to generate positively valued outcomes while avoiding or preventing negatively valued outcomes. So, depending on the particular orientation towards actors, exchange theorists will either assume that actors are rational decision makers or responsive learners. And so, here's what this means. So, you have social exchange. Just think of every social interaction is exchange behavior. There's a cost benefits analysis. From that exchange, there are certain costs and you get certain like rewards or benefits from that exchange. um, and so within this, the theorists differ in terms of how they think of the actor. So they all think of the actor or the person as being self-interested. They think people are self-interested. But some of them think the actors are rational, while the others think that they are more just like these responsive learners. So, what that means is a rational decision maker um, says that actors will attempt to maximize benefits while avoiding costs. And that actors are forward looking and attempt to maximize benefits while avoiding costs by determining how to produce valued outcomes. So, the rational decision maker, when they think of an actor this way, they assume that people are pragmatic, they're strategic. They're thinking about, they're looking at the potential costs, the potential rewards, and they're making the most rational decision they can based on the information that's available to them. And so, one example might be, which goes into the picture. So let's say, the women in this picture, they chose to, so what they are is they're working at a switchboard for telephones. Let's say they decide that that's the career they want to go into. And at the time, that's something that seems very reasonable. The information that is available to them is that this is how we communicate with each other. This is a highly valued job. This is something where there will be stability. We'll always have to communicate with each other. And they're weighing those costs and benefits, deciding to go into that particular area of work, but they couldn't possibly know that, that's something um, that would become less and less necessary as technology progressed. They can only anticipate so much, but given the information that was available to them, you could make the most rational decision that, hey, this is going to be a stable job. People are always going to need to communicate with each other. This is a good place for me to be. This is a good place for me to work. But then you could also see actors as responsive learners, which means that they will alter their behavior in accordance with greater rewards and limited punishment. So instead of being forward looking and anticipating the different costs and rewards or costs and benefits, they're backward looking. So they will be backward looking and attempt to alter their behavior in accordance with greater rewards and limited punishments. So they'll be thinking about what has happened before. They might apply it to other situations that are similar. So basically, they'll learn from their past experiences, or they'll learn from others' experiences, and so they're responding to their environment. They're responding to their experiences and changing their behavior in a way that will gain them the greatest reward for the fewest costs. So an example here um, might be like, so let's say going into social work, for example. So a responsive learner, right, can look around and say, okay, I really want to go into social work. This is something that's important to me and valuable. So let's say that someone is a rational decision maker. They'll say, this is, um, you know, or excuse me, a responsive learner. And they'll say, okay, so this is something that I think is valuable and important, but I'm looking around and I see that, um, people that I've known who went into social work didn't stay in social work. Um, People that I've talked to kind of looked down on it, said it wasn't, a good career to go into. Why are you going to college for that? It's going to be hard to find a job or whatever with that particular degree and that particular focus. And so, a responsive learner might alter their behavior and instead decide to go into another career, um, that maybe is people respond to better, or doesn't have a history of, people they know haven't left that career, have stayed in that career. So they're learning based on their experiences and they're altering their behavior in accordance with what they know. However, you can think of now where there's suddenly this focus on incorporating counselors and psychologists and other mental health professionals and social workers into like law enforcement settings, for example. Like there seems to be this enhanced focus on incorporating these professionals um, into this particular sector and elsewhere. And so there's going to be this increased need for social workers. Um, and so, again, as that information becomes available, um, you might see, yes, there's this, the rational decision maker might say, okay, yes, this new information is available. This is something that is, this is a very pragmatic decision. There's going to be increased need for social workers. I'm going to go ahead and go into social work because this is something I really value. There seems to be a lot of promise in it. But a responsive learner isn't really forward looking, they're backward looking. And so they're not necessarily thinking, okay, this is going to increase the need for social workers. For them, they're still thinking on maybe how someone responded to it, or the people they know who didn't stay in the field, didn't stay in that career. They're not necessarily looking forward and planning in terms of the future and being pragmatic. They're just learning from their experiences and altering the behavior in accordance with that. So those are the two different ways you can think of actors. Um, at the end, actors are self-interested, but they could either be rational decision makers or responsive learners. So, are they pragmatic? Are they strategic? Are they looking towards the future and anticipating changes in the environment? Or are they learning from their experiences and altering their behavior um, to gain the most reward and avoid punishment or costs? So, just again, a quick overview. So, central to social exchange theory is the idea that an interaction that elicits approval from another person is more likely to be repeated than an interaction that elicits disapproval. We can thus predict whether a particular interaction will be repeated by calculating the degree of reward, so approval, or punishment or disapproval resulting from the interaction. So, again, just that cost benefits analysis. We can think of um, not just what you'll get from the exchange or what sort of costs are associated with an exchange, but um, did you enjoy that interaction? Um, did you get a approval from this person in some way? Was it a positive interaction? If so, you're more likely to repeat that interaction than you are an interaction that was negative or elicited disapproval. So positive interactions you're more likely to engage in, or a situation where, or an exchange where you know, you gained quite a bit of reward, there were a few costs, you're going to be more likely to continue to engage in that relationship as long as it is functioning in that way. Here's just a quick video of the overview of social exchange theory. I think it does a pretty good job of illustrating the theory's tenets, its background, and a quick overview. Again, I highly recommend checking that out on the slides that are posted for this week. So, just I think it's good to visualize exchange theory. And so this is just essentially what it is saying is that an exchange equals you trade something of value, so a cost, for something valued, a reward. And that rewards minus costs. So as you're doing your cost benefit analysis, um, did you get a positive outcome, so profit, or was it a negative outcome, so net loss? So essentially, like in an exchange, will you engage in that exchange? You do this cost benefit analysis. You look at the costs and benefits, or the rewards and punishments, and you decide, okay, am I likely to profit from this exchange? And let's say you do, and it's a positive exchange. You're more likely to engage in that exchange. And then we have an illustration of an equity in exchange. So an equity is when my costs are greater than your rewards. Um, or rather, my costs are greater than my rewards, and vice versa. So, like, you, there's an equity in exchange if the costs that I incur in this interaction, in this exchange, outweigh the rewards I'm getting from it, and vice versa. It can also be my rewards are less than your rewards. So there's a variety of different ways that you could think about an equity in exchange. It's not just I'm investing more into this than I'm getting out of it. So you could think of that in terms of, like, I don't know, maybe a friendship. Maybe you are the one who's constantly reaching out to your friend. You are going, out of your way to interact with them and to hang out with them. Maybe you do a lot for their birthday, this and that. And that this person, maybe they never really reach out to you on your birthday. Maybe they just send you a happy birthday text, which is fine, right? We're all different. But just for the sake of example, and let's say maybe they're always kind of negative. They don't really add a lot to your life, and it's not really a super positive interaction. And so there's a lot of costs associated, that time, energy, money, hurt feelings, and you're not really getting a lot of reward. You're not getting a positive interaction. You're not building a solid foundation, a solid friendship with this person. But it could also be that your rewards are less than the other person's. So you're both putting in the same amount of effort. You both have, let's say, relatively equal costs, but this person is getting a lot more out of it than you are. So, yes, maybe, of course, you could look into the cost and if they differ. But if it's, you're both putting into the same, but somebody is getting a lot more out of this than you are, then that would be considered an equity in exchange. And it's not necessarily to say that that's a bad thing. It's just that that's what we're discussing when we talk about an equity in exchange. And finally, when you have, when you're looking at costs, where your costs are greater than the other person's. So maybe you're getting the same thing out of it. Like maybe it's just generally like friendship. You're both getting friendship, and that's great, but you have to put in a lot more than the other person. So your costs, even though you're both getting the same reward, the same, you're getting the same reward out of that exchange, your costs are much higher than theirs, which, maybe is still profit, but it could also result in loss if the costs outweigh the reward. Even if you're both getting the same level of reward within that exchange, if your costs are outweighing that, that would be also considered an equity in exchange. So, specifically defining what we mean by rewards and costs, and it's pretty straightforward. Rewards are the elements of a relationship that have positive value. It could be a whole variety of things. Again, it's subjective, but it could be social recognition, money, gifts, reassurance, friendship, compliments, validation, a smile, mentorship, and so on and so forth. It can be material things, it can be non material things. Because again, it's subjective, but it's something that's valued. Essentially, a reward is something that is valued. Um, it could be quality time, even. Costs, on the other hand, are elements of a relationship that have negative value to a person. So it's something you do not uh, value highly. Uh, you know, that could be all sorts of things. A cost could be, again, material or immaterial. It could be public humiliation, some sort of punishment, bullying, condemnation, a look of disapproval, insults, annoyance. It could be effort, energy, time, um, loss of sleep, anything. So many things could be a cost. Um, and it could be, one person's reward is another person's cost. Like maybe, um, I don't know, getting to um, babysit your niece or nephew, right? You could see that as a reward because your sibling trusts you and you get to spend quality time with your niece or nephew. But for some people, it could be a cost. Like, hey, I want to maintain a good relationship with my sibling, so I have to babysit their child. And that's not something I really enjoy doing, but I want to maintain this relationship. It's just a cost associated with the rewards of this good relationship with my sibling. So, again, it varies according to the situation, according to the person. It can be material, immaterial. Um, so, when thinking about cost and rewards, they're not necessarily stable across situations, they're not stable across individuals. And so, um, just a quick example, like you ask someone on a date. So that's a cost, right? Because you could be embarrassed. It takes a lot of, maybe courage or whatever the case may be. But let's say that that's a cost. If the person responds yes, um, that's that's a reward. Um, if the person responds no, that's there's a loss there. So when you think of the cost and benefits, right? The cost is you ask someone on a date. The benefit is there's potential benefits. They could say yes. So they say yes. There's profit in that. They say no. There's a loss, and you're less likely to or you're less likely to continue in that exchange. If they say yes, you're more likely to repeat the exchange and continue with the exchange. Um, so that's just a really quick example of a social exchange in terms of those cost benefits, um, profit, loss, and whether or not you're likely to continue with that exchange. And so, drawing from psychological behaviorism, early theorists contend that the persistence of an exchange relation is contingent on the social processes reinforcing or deterring social behavior, emerging as individual actors form associations between particular behaviors and their corresponding rewards and punishment. So, going back to that video, I highly recommend you watch it. It talks about early theorists like Pavlov, Watson, and Skinner, and it drawing from psychological behaviorism, which again, that's saying that people, with its origins in this area, it's saying that people will continue to engage in these exchange relationships based on the processes that are either reinforcing or deterring their behavior, engaging in this and the behavior they engage in while in this exchange. So actors will form associations between particular behaviors and their corresponding rewards and punishments. So, for example, like you're with a friend, and this friend hates the sound of chewing, and will get very like irritable. You notice that they get very irritable every time you're eating, a bag of chips around them. And so you associate that with some sort of punishment because they look at you with a look of like disapproval and contempt. And so you learn not to do that. So you avoid that cost, and maybe you recognize that every time with a friend, when you compliment them on something, they respond positively. Um, and maybe they go on to compliment you later, or they're in a better mood later. And you see that as a reward. And so you will learn to associate, rewards and punishments with different type, or costs and benefits with different types of behavior within an exchange. And so these four propositions will go into more detail Wednesday. But as just a quick overview, the four propositions that are important to discuss in terms of social exchange theory. So, again, in addition, early theorists introduced these following four basic propositions underlying this conception of social exchange theory. So, you have the success proposition, which says that actors are likely to repeat behavior resulting in positive outcomes. So, if a behavior creates positive outcomes, it is likely to be repeated. Then you have the stimulus proposition, which says that actors are likely to reproduce behavior resulting from past rewards. If a behavior is rewarded in the past, it is likely the individual will continue the previous behavior. And this essentially means that it could be in a totally different situation. But let's say complimenting someone has always, rewarded you in some way. It's resulted in a positive outcome. So across situations, you're going to keep reproducing that behavior. And then the value proposition, which says the more value an actor places on a particular reward, the more likely the actor will repeat and reproduce that behavior. And finally, what they call the deprivation satiation proposition says that the more often an actor receives a particular reward, the less valuable it is to the actor, meaning the value of that reward will diminish over time. And so, again, this is something we will go over more Wednesday in detail. Um, so that's something to be thinking about. But other than that, that is all for today. Your activity 6 is due Friday at 11:59 p.m. and I hope you all have a great week. Thanks.